Communications and Community Engagement with Cumberland County Schools. Thank you so much for joining us for our Throwback Thursday edition of Cumberland Family Academy. Each week, we look forward to bringing you timely information and resources to help your child succeed in school and in life. Now, let's jump right into tonight's session, already in progress. Hello, Cumberland County Schools. I'm Lindsay Whitley, Associate Superintendent for Communications and Community Engagement, and I am so excited to have all of you here with me tonight for our next session of our master class for today's families. This evening, we are going to have a conversation. And I say conversation because I want to hear from you. I would like to have you chime in. We're going to ask a few questions tonight, and we want to have an interaction. We want to have a collaboration, and we want to discuss a very important topic: empowering families, how to advocate effectively. So that is the topic for tonight, and we're going to have fun, all right? So when we think about what we want to talk about tonight, we want to really cover what it means to advocate, discuss why it's important to your child's education, and we also want to provide you with some resources to help you advocate as a Cumberland County Schools parent. Now, when we think about it, these are some core assumptions that I'm coming into this presentation with, and that is that every child matters, and so all children have dignity, potential, and talents, and the right to a great education. And so we want to begin to think about how can we, as a community, as a village, support them. I also believe that every parent, every family member, every caregiver, every aunt, uncle, grandparent, whoever you are that's helping raise one of our students, we believe that you want the best for your student. And so when we think about partnering in this endeavor, it really is about thinking about what is the role of parents in the educational arena, as well as our educators and staff. So let's get into it. First of all is a quiz, all right? So I want you to think about it, and you can place this in the chat. These are an activity, if we were in person, it's called Think, Pair, and Share, but true or false? I'm not going to tell you the answers quite yet, but think about it and put it in the chat. For the first one, you may put number 1 and put true or false, number 2, true or false, however you want to do it that way. But for the first one, teachers are the most important influence on a child's education. What do you think? Facebook, family. Is that true? Is that false? To be involved, parents have to understand everything their child is learning in school. Is that true? Or is that false? Number 3, parents must wait for the school to invite them to get involved. Is that true? Or is that false? And last but certainly not least, education does not take place at home. Is that true or is that false? So I'm going to give you a minute to just think about those particular statements and think about whether you are thinking whether they're true or false. Please take a minute to put something in the comments. We want this to be interactive. We want to learn and collaborate together this evening. I'm going to check the chats and see if we have any feedback at this time. All right, there's still time. You can put some comments in there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and give you the answers so you can compare as we think about whether these statements are true. So teachers are the most important influence on a child's education. We actually have found through research that our teachers and educators are phenomenal, and they're very important in the success of a child. But one of the most important influences on a child's life is parental involvement and the engagement of parents and families and caregivers in their education. Next, false. To be involved, parents have to understand everything their child is learning in school. There are many things you may not understand, but being connected, asking good questions, being present, those are some of the important things that you can do to show to your child that you value their education and that it is very important. And that's what educators are here for. They are here to help you understand and to give you the important resources you need to help guide your child throughout their educational journey. Next, parents must wait for the school to invite them to get involved. That is false. Every school in Cumberland County, we want you engaged, we want you involved. You can always email your child's teacher or call or reach out to think about how your child is doing in class. In fact, we welcome that because that is very important to the success of your child. Last but not least, education does not take place at home, and we know that that is false. In fact, parents and caregivers and guardians, you are really your child's first teacher. And so when we think about that, we want to really, I want to highlight and applaud all that you do as families and caregivers for our students. But we also want to begin to think about how do we increase this partnership with our educators in the school system, between parents and educators. How can we increase and strengthen those partnerships? So what is the role of a parent in the educational process when we think about that? To really define a partnership is really thinking about two entities, two people, and they have equal status and they have independence, but they have an obligation. So when we think about the educators and staff, and we think about our parents and families, both of you we want to consider you as equal in status in terms of you both have the best interests of the student at heart, but you both have something that you're bringing to the table. And so both of you have knowledge that can help that child succeed. And so although there's some independence in regards to, the viewpoints, you may have certain thoughts as a parent, and sometimes the educator may have a different thought. But something amazing happens when we join forces as educators and as parents on behalf of the child, and we bring our viewpoints together. Ultimately, we can make decisions that will impact the child in a positive manner. And so we are, to a certain extent, we have an obligation or a responsibility so that we can work together for a child's education. So what does this mean in kind of real life or in layman's terms? So when we think about it, there are certain things that you know about your child. There's certain habits, there's certain personality things, there's certain things that your child likes, and those are good things for a teacher to know. There's certain things that if your child is spoken to in a certain way, or certain things that maybe they're a little shy, maybe they're introverted, those are things that the educator or the teacher may not know. But guess what? If you inform the child's teacher about that, those are ways that sometimes in the future we can prevent conflict, we can prevent misunderstandings, and we can once again work together. Perhaps your child has had a rough weekend and you don't always want to go into detail about things that have happened at home, but there are some things that you can share to give your child's teacher a heads up, right? So that at school that particular day, that your child's teacher can be on the lookout to support your child through whatever they're going through. So it's very important that we work in partnership as educators and families. It's all about teamwork, working together, coming together, as I said, sharing information so that we can help every student succeed. So when you think about this, it kind of sounds easy when I talk about it here on this Facebook Live, but what are some of the challenges that parents face when trying to partner with school officials? So you think about teachers, principals, even district staff. I want you to put it in the chat. I want to hear from some of you this evening. What are some of the challenges that parents and families face when trying to partner with school officials, such as our teachers and principals? So I'm going to give you just a minute to put that in the chat. And remember, there's no wrong answer. We want to hear from you. I'm going to check and see if we have any feedback. Once again, we're talking about challenges that parents face when trying to partner with school officials. Okay, so sometimes there's a language barrier. There may be times when the native language of the family may not be that of what is spoken at the school. And so how do we begin to work through that? Sometimes we have different viewpoints, and so we may disagree with the handling of a particular situation at the school location, and those are things that are just normal. We're gonna believe that when your child comes home and maybe you understand something that has transpired, and maybe you don't agree with the way that a school official has handled it. That's definitely a challenge that happens. We have different viewpoints, and it's totally normal to see things in a different light. Sometimes there are misunderstandings. You may not understand what was communicated, and so you thought the school staff meant one thing or another, and now you may be, become a little confused, and so you have to clear up misunderstandings. All right. Any other challenges that parents face when trying to partner with school officials? So I think it's important to know we're all different. We all have different viewpoints. We all bring our certain viewpoints to the table. But once again, we have to go back to the notion of this is a partnership. So it's necessary for us to be able to create win-win opportunities to work together, because guess what? The success of every child is at stake. So we have to think about how do we work through the challenges? And that's what we want to begin to think about. How do you work through those challenges? So the main thing is relationships are key. And I'll give you an example. Your child may come home and tell you something, and I know everybody's child, right? They always tell the truth, right? And I'm not saying that they don't, but what I'm saying is sometimes it could be your child's perception. Sometimes it could be the truth. Sometimes it could be reality. But what we always want to think about is relationships are key. And we always have to keep the child at the very center of all of our actions. And so when we think about how to do that in a real way, sometimes if your child comes home and tells you something, then, as a parent, you're obligated, right, to follow up and say, hey, I wanted to follow up and get a better understanding. My child came home and told me X, Y, and Z, and, I really didn't understand why that transpired. Can you explain more of what happened? And so you're operating from the approach where you're seeking understanding. And so when we think about building a relationship, we want to go and seek understanding, even when we may not be in agreement with a particular action that we've heard or someone has claimed that has happened. We want to go and seek understanding. Now, what's the worst thing that we could do if we learn some information that has, allegedly happened to our child? The first thing most of us do as a parent, it has happened to me. We often get upset. Sometimes it may make us angry because of what has transpired. But it's so important that we have to remember this is a relationship with the educators, and we have to seek an understanding of what has transpired. And then if something in fact has happened that should not have happened, then we have to think about how do we work through that in a positive way to benefit the success of our child. So when we think about someone who advocates, they argue for a cause, and I can't think of a better cause this evening than the education of our young people. And so that means standing up for them, as they make their way, asking good questions. I often think of my parents when I was in high school, specifically my mom, who she was, as a first generation college student, she was trying to help me apply for applications to college. She was trying to help me fill out college scholarship opportunities. And at a certain point, I was ashamed because she was always calling the guidance counselor. She was always calling up to the school asking questions because she didn't have the information, but she knew that she wanted me to be successful, and she didn't have all the answers. And so the only way to get the information, she had to call and ask. And so in a way, she was advocating for me. She was going and asking questions, and there are some doors that open. There are some scholarships I was able to receive that I didn't even know to apply for, that I was able to gain access to that knowledge because my mom advocated on my behalf to get that knowledge and that information. And so I want to say there's so much going on in the education world right now. We may not always know the answers, but it's important to advocate, to support, to stand up, to ask for information, to clarify, to ask good questions to help our children succeed at school and in life. When we think about advocating, it can take on many different forms. Having those conversations with your child about problems at school. You know, every day I advocate for how many technology free times do you have in the evening? If you're not careful, guess what? As soon as you get in the car, everybody's on, their iPhone, and then you get home, everybody's watching TV, they're watching Netflix, they're watching Hulu, everybody's using their phones. But how important is it for you to hear from your child? Talk to them. Don't just ask them if they had a good day at school. Ask them what they enjoyed most about their day. Ask them about what were some of the challenges of their day. Begin to have those conversations, because that is where you can learn about some of the things that may need to be addressed at the school level. It's important to meet with your child's teachers and have those conversations with them. Learning about how, little Johnny is doing, or there's some things that you can do to improve Johnny's performance, or there's some extra things you can send at home for us to work on over the weekend. Asking those questions are an important thing to do to support your child's well-being in school. Learning about the school's different departments and resources. So like watching tonight's session, being involved, getting involved in PTA, Cumberland Family Academy. We're offering different sessions through our different departments, even such as our Exceptional Children's Department. We've hosted, AG sessions. All of these things, it's important to expose your family to all of the different resources and informational opportunities to help strengthen and help your child succeed at school and in life. So when we think of advocating, it's not always something negative or that something went wrong, but it's really taking an offensive approach and saying, I want to be involved every step of the way to ensure that I'm asking good questions, and so that I make sure that my child is on track for success. So when we think about some of the tips on parent advocacy, learn about the school's rules, regulations, and jargon. When you go to the Cumberland County Schools website, it's a great place to begin. As you navigate through our website, there is a board policy. When you think about the Board of Education, they set the policy and approve rules and regulations for the school district and policy. There's a whole policy manual. Think about the code of conduct that goes home at the beginning of every school year. That is shared on the Cumberland County Schools website. So if anything is happening with your child, maybe they did something that they shouldn't have done. What are the rules? What are the potential disciplinary procedures? And you as a parent, you have that information at your fingertips. And so as a parent, as a caregiver, you want to make sure that you take advantage, because knowledge is power. If your child maybe has an individualized education plan, maybe they're taking advantage of exceptional children services, you want to make sure that you keep that information handy, that you keep it organized in an organized way so that you can know what is going on and keep track of the meetings you're attending. I encourage everyone to put things in writing and stay organized. So as you are, reaching out to your child's school, it is totally appropriate to, after you meet, to thank them with an email and appreciate all that they're doing to support your child. And if y'all had a discussion about an opportunity to work together on behalf of your child, follow up with an email. That is a great way for you to keep that organized so that you can remember everything that you've agreed on as a parent, and things that you want to do to support your child, things that you need from the teacher and staff member. And it's just important that we stay organized so that we can always prevent any challenges from happening. Now, it's inevitable. At some point in time, you may have a disagreement, or like I like to say, you may choose to agree to disagree. And so you may say, what do I do? So what's the first thing you should do? Let me ask you, put it in the comments. If something happens at your child's school, in their classroom, what should you do first? Help me out. I want you to take a minute and put it in the chat. If there's an issue at your child's school, and maybe you don't agree with what has happened, how should you handle that situation? Take a minute. Help us tonight. Put it in the chat. All right, so we're talking about what I call the chain of command. And so if there is a disagreement, if there's a situation going on at your child's school, you want to start at the lowest level possible. And what I mean is if that's something that has happened in the classroom setting, depending on the nature of it, it's totally appropriate to begin with the teacher first, reaching out by phone or by email or by Class Dojo or whatever means you have available, and really sharing your concerns or requesting a meeting to discuss it further. And then 9 times out of 10, misunderstandings can be resolved at that level. However, sometimes it may not be resolved at the teacher level. Then guess what? That is your opportunity to we talked about having everything organized. We talked about putting things in writing and following up. Then you're able to say, hey, I'm going to the assistant principal or the principal and say, I have worked to resolve this particular issue at the classroom level. And it hasn't worked out to my satisfaction. And so now I'm here to talk to you as the building leader to share what has happened so far and what I would like to see happen moving forward, how we can work through this particular situation. Definitely at that level, in many cases at the principal or assistant principal level, it will be resolved. But guess what? Sometimes it may not. And then at that point, here in Cumberland County Schools, we have a school support team who helps us, even at the district level, respond to concerns from our families. And so you can reach out to our school support department, and you can, once again, share everything that you've done leading up to that point. I've talked to the teacher, I've talked to the principal, and I still have some concerns. And then at that point, it can be escalated. And ultimately, you will get a solution. But I guess the point is we want to make sure that we work together in a productive and positive manner to help our children succeed. And oftentimes, if we start at the lowest level possible in terms of before escalating it, we can resolve it and move on. Because once again, what is this all about? It's about partnering. It's about partnership. It's about partnering as an educator, as a family member for the student. And so we have to work through that. Something I want to say is, remember, when you encounter issues, just always remember how your attitude is communicated. This is something we share with staff when we here in Cumberland County Schools conduct professional development, but I also like to share it with families as well. Just remember, you can communicate in several different ways. And sometimes it's not what you say, it can be how you say it. And so just be remembering that your attitude can be communicated by your words, by your tone of voice, and then nonverbal ways. And so something we want to encourage as a school district is that as educators, that we treat every family member, every parent, every caregiver with respect. And then in the same token, we want to also encourage you as family members. I know how it is. When someone messes with your baby or you feel like they were done wrong, it upsets you. And so we want to sometimes, before you even come up to the school or reach out to the child's teacher, you may just need to take a moment to calm down just a little bit and remember how you're communicating, because at the end of the day, we're going back to the partnership. This is a partnership, and we want to work in a collaborative and friendly way to help our students succeed. And that's what it's all about. Just a few more tips. Know your child's needs and what you're asking for. If there's something that your child needs from the school staff, once again, you're the expert on your child. Inform school staff about it. Now, we can't always accommodate every single request, but it's important to share feedback with school staff. Find support groups within the community. We have, parent-teacher organizations, there are advisory groups. We have Cumberland Family Academy. Make sure you visit the Cumberland County Schools website to find out about those classes and information sessions. Even tonight's session, this masterclass is sponsored through our Cumberland Family Academy group. And so we want to begin to think about how can you as a parent find the support that you need within your community, within our community. And last but not least, on this particular slide, trust your instincts and just know that if something seems like it's wrong with your child, something may be going on, that may be a clue that you need to ask questions. You need to check in with the teacher and say, hey, my child has been a little quiet lately after returning from school. And I'm just wondering, if we can partner together to see what might be going on. Are there some resources we can use to support them? As you continue to advocate, continue to get to know your child's teachers. Make a list of your child's teachers, ask to meet with them, follow up, learn what's working, get involved, join PTA. And like I said before, attend open houses, school events. And once again, as a reminder, as we kind of recap and before we close, keep good records. This is even important for college planning purposes to have everything in one place. But also, if there's ever a question about things that have been requested, things that have been done, things that have happened, things that maybe you are concerned about, it's important that you have good records. You will, your child will receive important papers, permission slips, so many things, grades, progress reports, and those are things that you want to make sure. Make sure you're connected with our parent school parent portal. Once again, that's a great way to stay connected, to see your child's grades, to be able to know how they're doing even before report cards are released. Why? Because that's what it takes to help our children succeed. It takes that partnership and that engagement on the parts of the educator as well as the family member. So recapping, once again, visit our website. That is on the screen right there. There's a wealth of information about everything I've talked about, the board policy manual, our code of conduct, Cumberland Family Academy, all sorts of social emotional resources. There's a wealth of information there. And I know you can't look at it all in one night, but make yourself aware of the many resources that are there to you, because once again, I always like to say, when parents and educators join forces on behalf of students, amazing things happen. And I know we want all of our students to succeed. We want everybody to be successful. And so to make that happen, we have to work together on behalf of our young people. So I want to thank you for joining tonight as we talked about advocacy. Please be sure to visit the Cumberland Family Academy website. It is a website dedicated to you, our families, our guardians, our caregivers, our parents, aunties, uncles, anyone who is supporting our young people. If you go to Cumberland Family Academy, that website is on the screen. You can find a host of information sessions, on-demand videos, and just ways that you can continue to be engaged in the education of your child. Well, I'm not going to hold you too much longer because I want to give you time to go ahead and cook and spend time with your young people. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, and please be sure to tune in next time. Wow, that was a great session. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our Throwback Thursday Cumberland Family Academy session.
Each week, we look forward to bringing you information and resources. So if you enjoyed watching tonight's session, be sure to visit our website at www.familyacademy.ccs.k12.nc.us. There, you will find additional sessions and information and even resources to help you help your child in school and in life. Thank you again for joining us.